Marcus Thompson walked into Riverside Financial on a sunny Monday morning. He wore a plain gray t-shirt, old jeans, and running shoes. His normal clothes were fancy suits and ties, but today was different. Marcus had just finished his morning jog and decided to stop at the bank. 3 months ago, Marcus had bought this bank. He was now the CEO and owner of Riverside Financial. But today, he didn't look like a rich businessman. He looked like a regular person. "I want to see how my bank treats normal customers," Marcus thought as he joined the line. The bank was busy. People stood in long lines waiting for help. Marcus noticed how some customers got quick service while others waited longer. He watched everything carefully. Marcus had worked hard all his life. Growing up in a small apartment with his mother and 2 sisters, he learned the value of money early. He started his first business at age 19, fixing computers for people in his neighborhood. Now at 38, he owned a big tech company and had recently bought this bank. After waiting for 20 minutes, Marcus finally reached the front of the line. The female teller looked at him with a small frown. "How can I help you?" she asked, her voice flat. "I'd like to deposit this check into my business account," Marcus said politely, sliding a check and deposit slip across the counter. The teller's eyes widened when she saw the amount on the check. It was for $250,000. She looked at Marcus again, taking in his casual clothes and sweaty forehead. "Sir, I'll need to see some ID for a transaction this large," she said, her tone suddenly formal. "Of course," Marcus replied. He took out his driver's license and bank card, placing them on the counter. The teller examined his ID for a long time. She looked at the picture, then at Marcus, then back at the ID. Finally, she shook her head. "I'm sorry, but I'll need to get my manager to approve this," she said. "This is an unusual transaction." Marcus nodded calmly. He understood banks had security rules, but he noticed the teller had quickly helped the white man in a business suit before him, who had also made a large deposit. Soon, a tall man with gray hair walked over. He wore an expensive suit and a name tag that read Richard Pearson, branch manager. "Is there a problem here?" Pearson asked the teller, not even looking at Marcus. "This gentleman wants to deposit this check," the teller explained, showing him the check and Marcus's ID. Pearson barely glanced at the ID before turning to Marcus with a tight smile. "Sir, we have strict rules about large deposits. Where did you get this check?" "It's a payment from a client," Marcus explained calmly. "I own Thompson Technologies. This is a regular business transaction." Pearson raised his eyebrows. "Thompson Technologies, and you're claiming to be the owner?" "I am the owner," Marcus said, starting to feel frustrated. "You can verify all my information. I'm a customer at this bank." "Perhaps," Pearson said with doubt in his voice, "but we need to take extra steps to verify unusual transactions like this. Maybe you'd like to speak with one of our financial advisors about more appropriate banking options for someone in your situation." People in line were starting to watch. Marcus felt his face grow warm, not from embarrassment, but from anger. He had faced this kind of treatment before, but never expected it at his own bank. "What exactly is my situation?" Marcus asked quietly. Before Pearson could answer, a woman in a sharp business suit walked through the front doors. She immediately spotted Marcus and smiled widely. "Mr. Thompson, what a surprise to see you here today," she called out, walking quickly toward him. The look on Pearson's face changed from doubt to confusion. And that's when everything at Riverside Financial was about to change forever. The woman who walked into the bank was Diane Chen, the regional director who reported directly to Marcus. She wore a navy blue suit and carried a leather folder. Diane had worked at Riverside Financial for 8 years and was one of the first executives Marcus had met after buying the bank. "Mr. Thompson, I didn't expect to see you here today," Diane said with a friendly smile. "I thought we were meeting at the main office this afternoon." Pearson's face turned pale as he looked back and forth between Marcus and Diane. The teller behind the counter froze, her hand still holding Marcus's ID. "Mr. Thompson," Pearson repeated weakly. As in Marcus Thompson. Yes, the Marcus Thompson who bought this bank 3 months ago. Diane confirmed, looking confused at the situation. Is everything okay here? The bank lobby grew quiet. Other customers and employees stopped what they were doing to watch. Marcus took a deep breath before speaking. Everything is not okay, Diane, he said calmly. Mr. Pearson here was just explaining why someone like me might need more appropriate banking options rather than simply depositing a check into my business account. Diane's smile disappeared as she understood what was happening. She looked at Pearson with shock and disappointment. Mr. Pearson, do you realize who you're speaking to? She asked. Pearson's face had now turned from pale to bright red. Sweat appeared on his forehead as he tried to find words. I didn't. He wasn't dressed like. I mean, we have protocols for large deposits, he stammered. Marcus raised his hand to stop Pearson's excuses. Those protocols seem to apply differently depending on what a person looks like. Isn't that right, Mr. Pearson? By now, everyone in the bank was watching. Some customers had taken out their phones, though no one was recording yet. A security guard near the door looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Sir, Mr. Thompson, I apologize for the misunderstanding, Pearson said, trying to recover. Of course we can process your deposit right away. Janet, please handle this transaction immediately. The teller, Janet, quickly nodded and began processing the check, her hands shaking slightly. This isn't a misunderstanding, Marcus said, his voice firm but not loud. This is exactly what happens to people who look like me every day in banks across this country. The difference is, most of those people don't own the bank. An older woman waiting in line nodded her head in agreement. A young black man near the ATMs watched with interest, his eyes moving between Marcus and Pearson. Diane stepped closer to Marcus. Would you like to continue this conversation in the office, Mr. Thompson? She asked quietly. Marcus shook his head. No, Diane. I came here as a customer today, and I'd like to finish my transaction as a customer. Janet handed Marcus his receipt with trembling hands. Your deposit has been processed, sir. The funds will be available tomorrow. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Thank you, Janet, Marcus said kindly. He knew this wasn't her fault. That's all I needed. Pearson stood nearby, still red-faced and uncomfortable. Mr. Thompson, if we could discuss this matter privately. We will discuss it, Mr. Pearson, Marcus interrupted. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., in my office. Bring your records of customer complaints for the past year, especially any involving minority customers. Pearson nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Of course. As Marcus turned to leave, Diane walked with him toward the door. The other customers watched them go, some whispering to each other. I'm so sorry that happened, Diane said quietly. Don't be sorry, Marcus replied. Be ready for changes. What happened today isn't just about me. It's about every person who walks through those doors. As they left the bank, Marcus knew this incident would change Riverside Financial forever. The question was, how much change was Pearson ready for? The next morning, Marcus arrived at the main office of Riverside Financial at 8:30 a.m. He wore a sharp dark blue suit with a red tie. Today, he looked every bit the CEO he was. His assistant, Kevin, handed him a coffee as he walked through the door. Mr. Pearson is already here, sir, Kevin said. He's been waiting since 8 o'clock. Marcus nodded. Let him wait a bit longer. I need to make some calls first. In his office, Marcus called the head of human resources, Patricia Williams. Patricia had been with the bank for 15 years and knew every rule and policy. Patricia, I need you in my office for my meeting with Richard Pearson at 9 o'clock, Marcus said, and bring all customer complaints from his branch for the past 2 years. Yes, sir, Patricia replied. May I ask what this is about? You'll find out soon enough, Marcus said. Also, call Diane Chen and ask her to join us. At exactly 9 o'clock a.m., Marcus walked into the conference room. Pearson jumped to his feet, his forehead already shiny with sweat. Patricia sat on one side with a thick folder of papers. Diane sat across from her, looking serious. "Good morning," Marcus said as he sat at the head of the table. "Mr. Pearson, do you know why you're here?" Pearson nodded quickly. "About yesterday, sir. I want to apologize again for the misunderstanding." "Stop saying it was a misunderstanding," Marcus interrupted. "Tell me exactly what happened, from your point of view." Pearson shifted in his chair. "A man, you, sir, came to make a large deposit. He didn't look like our typical business customer. I followed bank protocol for unusual transactions." "What does a typical business customer look like, Mr. Pearson?" Marcus asked. Pearson struggled to answer. "Well, professionally dressed, usually, with proper ID and—" "I had proper ID," Marcus said. The teller saw it. "You barely looked at it." Patricia opened her folder. "Mr. Thompson, if I may, we've had several complaints about Mr. Pearson's branch in the past year. 5 of them specifically mentioned different treatment based on appearance or race." Pearson's eyes widened. "That's not true. I treat all customers the same." Diane spoke up. "I visited your branch last month as part of our regular review. I noticed the wait times were longer for certain customers. When I asked about it, you said you were being extra careful with high-risk transactions." Marcus leaned forward. "Mr. Pearson, do you know why I bought this bank?" Pearson shook his head. "I grew up poor," Marcus explained. "My mother couldn't get a loan to fix our roof because banks like this one decided she was high risk. When I made my first $1 million, I still had trouble getting business loans. So when I had the chance to buy Riverside Financial, I took it. I wanted to build a bank that serves everyone fairly." The room was silent. Patricia looked down at her papers. Diane watched Marcus with respect in her eyes. "Am I going to lose my job?" Pearson finally asked, his voice small. Marcus studied him for a moment. "That depends on you, Mr. Pearson. I don't fire people for making mistakes. I fire them for refusing to learn from mistakes." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, people were entering the bank's main branch, starting their day. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said. "First, you're going on a 2-week suspension without pay. During that time, you'll complete our new training program on fair banking practices and unconscious bias." Pearson nodded quickly, relief showing on his face. "Second, when you return, you'll work under Diane's direct supervision for 3 months. Any complaint about unequal treatment will be reviewed immediately." "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir," Pearson said. "Don't thank me yet," Marcus said, turning back to face him. "Because third, I'm going to visit your branch regularly, sometimes dressed like a CEO, sometimes not. And I'll be watching very carefully to see if you've learned anything." Pearson swallowed hard and nodded. "This isn't just about you and me," Marcus finished. "This is about changing how our bank works. Are you ready for that change, Mr. Pearson?" The branch manager looked up, meeting Marcus's eyes for the first time. "I think I need to be," he said quietly. During the next 2 weeks, Marcus made big changes at Riverside Financial. He called all managers to a special meeting where he told his own story from the bank that day. Most of the managers looked shocked. A few nodded, as if they had seen such things before. "From today, we start a new training program," Marcus announced. "Every employee will learn about fair treatment. Every branch will have new rules for helping customers." Marcus hired a company that taught people about treating everyone fairly. The teachers came from different backgrounds and knew how to explain these difficult topics in simple ways. Meanwhile, Richard Pearson attended classes every day. At first, he sat with his arms crossed, not saying much. By the end of the first week, though, something started to change. During a class about unconscious bias, the unfair thoughts people have without realizing it, Richard raised his hand. "I think I've been doing this," he admitted to the group. "I didn't think I was treating people differently, but now I see that I was." The teacher nodded. Recognizing the problem is the first step to fixing it. After class, Richard stayed to talk more. "I've worked in banking for 20 years, he told the teacher. "I always thought I was just being careful with bank money. But when I think about who I was careful with and who I wasn't, there's a pattern there I can't ignore anymore." While Pearson was in training, Marcus visited different bank branches. Sometimes he wore his expensive suits. Other times he dressed in casual clothes. He noticed how differently people treated him based on what he wore. At the end of the 2 weeks, Pearson returned to work. His branch had changed. There were new signs about fair treatment on the walls. The waiting area had been redesigned so that all customers could be seen by tellers, not just those in the front of the line. On Pearson's first day back, Marcus visited the branch. This time, everyone recognized him immediately. Employees stood straighter and smiled nervously. "Mr. Pearson," Marcus said, "walk with me." The two men walked around the branch while customers did their banking. "What have you learned these past 2 weeks?" Marcus asked. Pearson took a deep breath. "I learned that I was judging people unfairly. I didn't think I was racist, but my actions were. I was harder on some customers than others based on how they looked." Marcus nodded. "And what are you going to do differently now?" "I set up a new system," Pearson explained. "Every customer follows the same steps for the same transactions. No special treatment for anyone, good or bad. We check IDs the same way for everyone. We verify checks the same way for everyone." They stopped near the teller windows. Janet, the teller from that day, was helping an elderly black woman count some cash. "And your employees?" Marcus asked. "What have you told them?" "That things are changing," Pearson said. "That we serve everyone with respect, no matter what they look like or how much money they have. And I told them about my mistake with you. I didn't hide it. I used it as an example." Marcus watched the bank floor for a few more minutes. He noticed that Pearson's changes were already working. Customers moved through lines more quickly. Tellers spent about the same amount of time with each person. "It's a good start," Marcus said finally. "But it's just a start. I'll be watching to see if these changes last." As they walked back to Pearson's office, a young black man in casual clothes entered the bank. Marcus watched carefully as an employee greeted him with a smile and directed him to the right line. "Remember, Mr. Pearson," Marcus said quietly, "I'm not the only one watching. Every customer who walks through that door is judging this bank by how they're treated. And they don't all own the bank, but their business is just as important as mine." Pearson nodded. "I understand, sir. I won't forget again." Marcus hoped that was true, but only time would tell. 3 months passed since Pearson returned to work. During this time, Diane Chen visited his branch twice a week to check on things. She watched how employees treated customers and made notes about what she saw. At first, everything seemed to be going well. Pearson followed all the new rules. He treated every customer the same, no matter what they looked like or how they dressed. The complaints about his branch went down, and customer satisfaction scores went up. Marcus was pleased with the progress. He had started something important, not just at Pearson's branch, but at all Riverside financial locations. The bank was becoming known for its fair treatment of all customers. Then, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, something happened that changed everything. Marcus was in his office reviewing the monthly reports when his phone rang. It was Diane. "Mr. Thompson, we have a problem at Pearson's branch," she said, her voice serious. "A customer just filed a complaint. You need to see the security video." 30 minutes later, Marcus sat in the security office watching the video. On the screen, a black woman in her 40s was trying to cash a large check. The check was from an insurance company. Pearson was called over, just like bank policy required for large checks. But what happened next made Marcus's stomach tighten. Pearson questioned the woman for over 20 minutes. He called the insurance company to verify the check. He asked for multiple forms of ID. He even suggested the woman deposit the check and wait 5 days for it to clear, rather than cashing it immediately. Did he follow policy? Marcus asked the security officer. Yes, sir, but the officer hesitated. Watch this next part. The video skipped ahead 10 minutes. Now a white man was cashing a check of similar size. Pearson verified his ID, smiled, and approved the transaction in less than 5 minutes. No phone call to verify. No suggestion to wait for the check to clear. Marcus leaned back in his chair, disappointed but not surprised. Get me the records of all large transactions from the past month, he told Diane. Let's see if this was a one-time thing or a pattern. The next day, Patricia from HR brought the records to Marcus's office. She looked upset. It's not good, sir, she said, placing a folder on his desk. We found 17 cases where Mr. Pearson handled large transactions in the past month. The average time for white customers was 6 minutes. For customers of color, it was 18 minutes. Marcus opened the folder and read through the details. In each case, Pearson followed the technical rules of bank policy, but he applied those rules differently depending on who the customer was. He's being careful not to break the rules, Marcus said, but he's still treating people unfairly. What do you want to do? Patricia asked. Marcus thought for a long time before answering. Set up a meeting with Pearson for tomorrow morning, and call our lawyers. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He had really hoped Pearson had changed. The man had seemed sincere in his desire to improve, but the evidence was clear. Pearson was still discriminating against customers, just in more subtle ways. The next morning, Pearson sat across from Marcus in the main office conference room. Diane and Patricia were there too, along with Sarah Johnson, the bank's head lawyer. Mr. Pearson, Marcus began, we've been reviewing your transaction records. Pearson smiled confidently. I followed every new policy to the letter, sir. Yes, you have, Marcus agreed. But you're still treating customers differently based on race. Pearson's smile disappeared. That's not true. I verify every large transaction. Marcus pushed the folder across the table. You verify them differently. You take 3 times longer with black customers than with white ones. You ask them more questions. You make them jump through more hoops. Pearson's face turned red. I'm just being thorough. No, Marcus said firmly. You're being biased. And after everything we've tried to teach you, that's not acceptable anymore. Pearson stared at the folder in front of him. His hands were shaking slightly as he flipped through the pages. Each paper showed times, dates, and details of customer transactions. The numbers didn't lie. I don't understand, Pearson said finally. I followed all the rules. I verified IDs. I checked signatures. What did I do wrong? Sarah, the bank's lawyer, spoke up. Mr. Pearson, the issue isn't what you did, but how you did it. You spent much more time questioning certain customers. You called to verify checks for some people but not others. The pattern is clear. Pearson looked around the room. Everyone was watching him with serious faces. I was just being careful, he insisted. Careful with some people and not others, Marcus said. His voice was calm but firm. That's the definition of discrimination. Pearson looked down at his hands. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound in the room was the ticking of the wall clock. What happens now? Pearson asked quietly. Marcus took a deep breath. I have 2 choices. I can fire you immediately, or I can give you one last chance. Hope flashed across Pearson's face. I'll take the chance, sir. I promise I'll do better. Marcus nodded. Here's the deal. You'll work as a regular teller for the next month, not as manager. You'll serve customers directly, and you'll be timed on every transaction. If we see any difference in how you treat people, you're done. Pearson's mouth fell open. A teller. But I've been in management for 15 years. That's the offer, Marcus said firmly. Take it or leave it. After a long silence, Pearson nodded. I'll do it. The next day, word spread quickly through Riverside Financial. Employees whispered about how the branch manager was now working as a teller. Customers looked surprised to see Pearson behind the counter instead of in his office. For the first week, Pearson did his job perfectly. Every customer got the same friendly service. Every transaction took about the same amount of time. Diane, who watched him closely, was impressed with his effort. But in the second week, things began to change. When the branch got busy, Pearson started rushing some customers while taking his time with others. The pattern was the same as before. White customers got quick service, while people of color waited longer. On Friday afternoon, a young black woman came to Pearson's window to open a new account. She was a college student who wanted to deposit her first paycheck. Pearson asked her many questions about where she worked, how she got her job, and why she chose Riverside Financial. "My mom banks here," the student explained. "She said you treat people fairly." Pearson nodded and continued filling out forms. The process was taking much longer than usual for a simple account opening. What Pearson didn't know was that the student was actually Diane's niece, Michelle. She had agreed to help test how Pearson treated different customers. Earlier that same day, a white college student, who was a friend of Michelle's, had opened an account with Pearson in just 10 minutes. After work, Diane brought the timing reports to Marcus. 28 minutes to open Michelle's account. 10 minutes for her white friend Jason. Same forms, same deposit amount, same everything. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. He had really hoped Pearson would change. He had given him every chance. "Bring him to my office on Monday morning," Marcus said, "and start looking for a new branch manager." That weekend, Marcus thought a lot about Pearson. Why couldn't the man change his behavior? Was it so deeply programmed that even when he tried, he couldn't treat people equally? Marcus realized that changing a bank's culture would take more than just new rules and training programs. Some people, like Pearson, might never change, and for the good of all customers, those people couldn't stay at Riverside Financial. Monday morning arrived with heavy rain. Marcus stood by his office window, watching water stream down the glass. The gray sky matched his mood. He didn't enjoy firing people, but sometimes it was necessary. At 9 a.m. sharp, Pearson knocked on Marcus's door. He looked nervous but still confident, as if he believed he could talk his way out of trouble. Patricia from HR sat quietly in the corner of the office with a folder of papers. "Have a seat, Mr. Pearson," Marcus said, pointing to the chair across from his desk. Pearson sat down, straightening his tie. "Sir, if this is about Friday afternoon, I can explain. That young woman had a lot of questions, and I was being thorough with her application." Marcus shook his head. "The young woman didn't have any unusual questions. We watched the whole interaction on video, and she happened to be Diane's niece." Pearson's face fell. "Diane's niece? You were testing me?" "Yes," Marcus said simply. "And you failed the test." Pearson's confidence disappeared. His shoulders dropped as he realized what was happening. "Mr. Pearson, we gave you multiple chances to change," Marcus continued. "We provided training. We offered support. We even changed your position to help you learn. But you continue to treat customers differently based on how they look." "I don't mean to," Pearson said quietly. "That's the problem with bias," Marcus explained. "Most people don't realize they're doing it. But when it affects how our customers are treated, we can't ignore it." Patricia handed Marcus a document. "This is your termination letter," Marcus said, sliding it across the desk. "Your employment with Riverside Financial ends today." Pearson stared at the paper. "After 20 years in banking, you're firing me because I took extra time with some customers." Marcus leaned forward. "I'm firing you because you can't treat all customers fairly. This bank's mission is to serve everyone equally. You've shown that you can't or won't do that." Pearson's face turned red. "You can't do this. I'll sue the bank for wrongful termination." Patricia spoke up. "Mr. Pearson, we have documented 17 cases of discriminatory treatment in the past month alone. We have video evidence. We have timing reports. We gave you warnings and chances to improve. Any lawyer will tell you we have clear cause for termination." Pearson looked from Patricia to Marcus, then back again. The fight seemed to drain out of him. Clean out your desk by noon, Marcus said. Security will escort you out. After Pearson left, Marcus sat quietly for a few minutes. Then he called Diane into his office. Is it done? She asked. Marcus nodded. It's done. Now we need a new branch manager. I have someone in mind, Diane said. Janet, the teller who was working that first day when you came in. She's been with the bank for 10 years. She treats everyone with respect. And she's been taking night classes in business management. Marcus remembered Janet, the nervous teller who had called Pearson over that day. Interesting choice. Is she ready for management? I think so, Diane said. And promoting her would send a strong message to all employees. That afternoon, Marcus met with Janet in the branch break room. She looked surprised to be called to a meeting with the CEO. Janet, I'll get right to the point, Marcus said. Mr. Pearson no longer works for Riverside Financial. We need a new branch manager. Diane thinks you'd be perfect for the job. Janet's eyes widened. Me? But I'm just a teller. You're much more than just a teller, Marcus replied. You're someone who treats all customers with respect. That's exactly what we need in leadership. Janet thought for a moment. If I become manager, can I make changes to how we do things here? What kind of changes? Marcus asked. I want to start a program to help people who've never had bank accounts before, Janet explained. Many people in this neighborhood don't trust banks. I want to change that. Marcus smiled for the first time that day. Janet, I think you're exactly what this branch needs. 3 months after Janet became branch manager, Riverside Financial had changed in many ways. Janet's first decision was to rearrange the entire branch. She moved her office from the back to a small desk on the main floor where she could see everything happening. A good manager should be visible, she told her staff. We should work with our customers, not hide from them. Janet started the program she had talked about with Marcus. Every Thursday evening, the branch stayed open late for new-to-banking workshops. People who had never had bank accounts before could come learn the basics, how to write checks, use ATMs, save money, and build credit. These workshops quickly became popular in the neighborhood. Many people who had always kept their money at home started opening accounts. The branch's new customer numbers grew higher than any other Riverside location. Word about what was happening spread through the banking community. One day, a reporter from the City Business Journal called Marcus's office. She wanted to write an article about the changes at Riverside Financial. Your bank is growing while others are losing customers, the reporter said during their interview. What's your secret? Marcus thought carefully before answering. We decided to serve everyone equally. It sounds simple, but in banking, it's revolutionary. The reporter took notes as Marcus explained the changes they had made. He told her about the training programs, the new policies, and about promoting Janet to branch manager. And what happened to the previous manager? The reporter asked. He no longer works for us, Marcus said simply. He didn't mention Pearson by name or go into details about why he was fired. Even though Pearson had treated customers unfairly, Marcus chose to be professional. The next week, the City Business Journal published their article with the headline, Banking for All: How Riverside Financial is Changing the Industry. The story included a large photo of Janet helping an elderly woman at the bank. The article caught the attention of other news outlets. Soon, Marcus was giving interviews to TV stations and national magazines. Everyone wanted to know how Riverside had become so successful so quickly. During one TV interview, the host asked Marcus a difficult question. Some bankers say that treating all customers the same is bad business. They say some customers are higher risk than others. What do you say to that? Marcus smiled. I say they're confusing risk with bias. Of course, banks need to assess risk. But true risk is based on facts like credit history and income, not on how someone looks or dresses. The host looked surprised. That's not how most banks operate. Then most banks are losing good customers, Marcus replied. My own mother couldn't get a loan to fix our roof when I was a child. Today, she would be welcomed at Riverside. As Riverside Financial became more famous, other banks started to notice. Some tried to copy their methods. Others criticized them publicly, saying Marcus was playing politics with banking. One day, Marcus received a surprising email. It was from Richard Pearson. "Mr. Thompson," the email began, "I want to thank you for firing me. It sounds strange, but losing my job forced me to face the truth about myself. I spent these months thinking about how I treated people and why. I'm not asking for my job back. I just wanted you to know that you changed at least one banker's thinking. Sincerely, Richard Pearson." Marcus read the email twice. He hadn't expected to hear from Pearson again, and certainly not with a message of thanks. He showed the email to Diane during their weekly meeting. "Do you think he really changed?" Diane asked. Marcus shrugged. "I don't know, but at least he's thinking about it now. That's more than he was doing before." "Should we respond?" Diane asked. Marcus nodded. "Yes, we'll wish him well. Everyone deserves a second chance, just not always at the same place." 1 year had passed since the day Marcus Thompson walked into his own bank and was treated poorly. So much had changed since then. Riverside Financial was now famous across the country as the Fair Bank. Their customer numbers had doubled. They had opened 10 new branches. On the anniversary of that important day, Marcus planned a special event. All branch managers and employees would gather at the main office for what he called Riverside Day. He wanted to celebrate their success and remind everyone why it mattered. The large meeting room was filled with over 200 employees. Janet sat in the front row, now wearing the title of regional director. She had been promoted after her branch became the most successful in the company. Taking her place as branch manager was Michelle, Diane's niece, who had graduated from college and joined the bank full-time. Marcus stood on the small stage, looking out at his team. He felt proud of what they had built together. 1 year ago today, Marcus began, I walked into one of our branches dressed in regular clothes. I wanted to see how customers were treated. What happened that day changed everything. The room was silent as Marcus told the story. Many employees had heard parts of it, but never the full version from Marcus himself. I could have just fired the manager and moved on, Marcus continued. But I realized the problem wasn't just one person. It was a system that allowed some customers to be treated better than others. In the back of the room, an older man stood quietly. No one noticed him come in. He listened carefully to Marcus's words. Today, Riverside Financial is different, Marcus said. We've helped thousands of people who never had bank accounts before. We've given loans to small business owners who were turned away by other banks. We've shown that treating people fairly is also good business. The employees applauded. Some wiped tears from their eyes. But our work isn't finished, Marcus said as the clapping died down. Every day, we must choose to treat each person with respect. Every day, we must fight against the bias that lives in all of us. After the speech, employees enjoyed food and drinks. Marcus walked among them, shaking hands and thanking them for their hard work. As he reached the back of the room, he noticed the older man standing alone. It took a moment before Marcus recognized him. Richard Pearson. Mr. Pearson, Marcus said, surprised. I didn't expect to see you here. Pearson looked nervous. I wasn't sure if I should come. Diane invited me. Marcus looked across the room and saw Diane watching them. She gave a small nod. What are you doing these days? Marcus asked. I teach banking classes at the community college, Pearson replied. And every semester, I tell my students about the mistake that cost me my job. I want them to learn from what I did wrong. Marcus was surprised. That's not what I expected. Getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me, Pearson said. It forced me to see things I never wanted to see before, about banking, about myself. Marcus studied the man's face. Pearson looked different somehow, humbler, quieter. I have something for you, Pearson said, handing Marcus a book. The title read Banking for Everyone. A Guide to Fair Financial Practices. I wrote it, Pearson explained. It's being used in banking schools now. Your story is in there, not by name, but what happened that day at the bank. Marcus opened the book and flipped through the pages. Why did you come today? He asked. To say thank you, Pearson said simply. You could have just fired me and forgotten about me. Instead, you tried to teach me. The lesson took a while to sink in, but it did eventually. Marcus offered his hand. Pearson shook it firmly. As Marcus watched Pearson leave, he thought about how change happens, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. The bank had changed. Pearson had changed. And banking itself was starting to change. All because one day, a CEO decided to visit his own bank dressed in regular clothes.